The next scene is of Sherry taking some pills. She takes off her glove and we see that she has the same kind of infection as Leon. In case you didn't remember her mentioning that she had it, or you didn't notice the obvious glove she had on. I just don't think this is necessary, but whatever. She steals herself and then goes back to her desk to talk to Leon, who is now driving down an abandoned road to the Raccoon City ruins. So, when we last saw Leon, he was coughing up blood and not following Grace, which is something he should do because 1. The villains clearly have plans for her based on the picture on the computer, and 2. There could still be zombies around that would try and kill her, but when we next see Leon, he is driving toward Raccoon City. The reason for this is that there happened to be some coordinates on Victor's computer that led to the center of Raccoon City. I feel like there could have been a quick scene to show that Leon did go after Grace, but when he got upstairs, all he saw was a helicopter heading toward Raccoon City. I'll admit that this is kind of nitpicky, but you could remove the scene of Sherry showing us something we already know and replace it with Leon getting a look at where the villains are headed. I feel like you'd just have an improvement. Anyway, when Sherry comes back on, Leon asks, "Did you find anything on Elpis?" And Sherry says, "Not yet. Nothing on the servers at the CIA or the Pentagon." And Leon says, "Maybe we need a higher clearance." Sherry says, "I requested one and I was told to shut down the investigation." So, first off, I don't buy that this is how things work. Sherry can just peruse the servers at the Pentagon and the CIA? Nah, get out of here. Secondly, this feels like pretty generic espionage thriller writing. A secret so big that not even the US government has records of it. Sure, I would be more forgiving of this if not for the fact that this story is so overwhelmingly glazed. Anyway, Leon says, "Look, we don't need you taking a hit for this. I'll just go it alone." And Sherry responds, "We're in this together, till the end." Leon comes back with, "Just don't do anything too risky." And Sherry replies, "Me? Never." So I want to talk about Sherry and Leon's relationship for a moment. Raccoon City is a foundational location for both of them. There are so many opportunities for dialogue that could be impactful. You could have Sherry discuss how she feels about this place, and have it tie into the themes. But she really has nothing of interest to say throughout this game. It's all pretty much just, "Leon, I have information," or "Leon, we need to hurry," or "We're in this together." There could be so much more meaning to their interactions based on what they have been through together, especially considering Leon's current mission. And you think they would want to take advantage of their history, considering all of the nostalgia baiting that is about to happen. But let's not jump ahead too fast. Leon makes it to a point where he has to ditch his car, and he starts trying to find his way forward when, hey look, a giant spider. I remember those. So Leon kills it and goes a little farther until he discovers some leftover zombies. He tells Sherry that the place is overrun with them, and she says, "That's impossible, they should have been wiped out by the missile." And Leon says, "Yeah, they should have." What do I even say about this? We have like 30 years of lingering zombies that never ventured outside of these ruins? Nobody ever tried to explore this place before or get footage of the zombies still here. The world building is just not very good here. And they are also retconning, which I find annoying. But we're just getting started with that. He also comes across some kind of military camp. He learns that he needs a series of detonator pieces to blast open the way forward. Then he finds a computer that isn't password protected and shows what the military people were looking for here. It's funny because, just like the zombies that still exist here, Leon points out the fact that the computer isn't locked. It's like the writers think that if they acknowledge how strange the thing is, that somehow makes it okay. On top of that, this military camp has basically no impact on the plot. The only information we get, really, is that other forces are trying to find their way to the city center. Leon doesn't learn anything new beyond that. This would be another opportunity to have a character show up and help Leon out a bit. A lone survivor that could have the password to the computer or explain what's going on here. But how about instead we have a computer with sensitive intelligence on it and leave it unlocked? Leon tells Sherry about this place and what he found. And she says, "That reminds me, I dug a little deeper into the Pentagon servers, and there is no record of anyone ordering a missile strike on Raccoon City." Right, so that's another retcon I'm not interested in. And we are not even close to done with them. This game will keep taking things from prior games and will try to change or recontextualize them to make them fit into its shitty story. So we see that there is a camera on the computer that is transmitting Leon to Victor's visor. Victor says, "Leon triggered the alarm. It looks like your campaign to make the DSO stand down really didn't work, Zeno." The implication being that Zeno was responsible for Sherry being told to shut down the investigation. Zeno replies to Victor by saying, "I'll leave this matter to you then," which is small, but I kind of like this interaction. Victor is subtly criticizing Zeno's failure, and Zeno is like, "Fine, you take care of it, smartass." Also, Grace is in this chopper with them. So, she just went through hell in Victor's clinic. She saw so many horrors that he clearly facilitated. Then she tells Leon that she doesn't want to continue on. But then she has these two clearly evil guys show up and tell her that they will show her her destiny, and she just goes along with it. What exactly is Grace's character? I can't understand a lot of the decisions she makes. This would have played so much better if Grace was like, "I'm not going anywhere with you," and then the bad guys make it clear that she doesn't have a choice. But the way it is now makes it feel like a willing decision here. Anyway, Leon runs around looking for detonators and happens to come across a motorbike in a storage container, which just reminds me of the random sniper rifle in Victor's office. You know, the way to solve this problem is to give Leon a motorbike before he gets here. The versatility of having one in this environment as opposed to a car is self-evident. You can have him steal one from in front of the clinic or something. Eventually, Leon gets all of the detonators and blows the gate. And then we get a sequence that makes the RE4 jet ski escape look like a lazy river. Leon starts along the ruined highway and we see that Victor has brought his own motorbike, and a rocket launcher, and a pack of mutant dogs. What follows is a series of explosions and stunt jumps, ending in a game of chicken where Victor falls off an edge and winds up in an explosion. Of course, I didn't believe for a second that he was actually dead, because who really knows what even can kill someone in this wacky universe? But more to the point, this whole sequence confuses me. It's entertaining, in a sense, because it's insane over-the-top wacky action, but it clashes pretty hard with the grounded dramatic tone they were going for. It's like they are trying to combine the action of RE4 with the realism of RE7 and 8. Relative realism, I mean, of course. I wouldn't want to say that such a combination would be impossible to achieve, but I'm sure you can at least understand why I think stunt jumping off of buildings while having rocket launchers fired at you clashes with the more dramatic moments in this story. Anyway, Leon eventually reaches the police station. As he's approaching, he says, "Can't believe it's still standing," which is just another example of them calling out an impossibility in the hopes that you'll ignore it. I, for one, will not. In Resident Evil 3 Classic, you even see the whole thing get vaporized. I don't buy any of this. Leon opens the doors and we get flashbacks to stuff that happened to him here, because how would you remember otherwise? And then it plays the music from RE2 Classic. So we're going to take a moment to talk about nostalgia. I have grown to really hate the feeling of nostalgia. The reason for that is that there are so many stories nowadays that lean on it heavily to make up for their shitty plots. And they don't even use it in a meaningful way. There's an example I can use right out of the gate. Leon walks in and says to Sherry, "I'm in RPD." And her response is simply, "Been a while since you've been back there." It's nothing more than a wink to the audience, and you will get nothing from me, emotionally or otherwise. There is a note next to the Welcome Leon banner from the remake of 2. The note says, "You can't save anyone," which is quite funny in a stupid way when he is talking to Sherry Birkin right now. She would not have made it out if not for him. But this note is almost infinitely more stupid when you consider RE4. But I'm saving that for later. So Leon comes across a computer that has a link to a nearby security camera. I just have to assume that whoever set up shop here installed new battery-powered cameras around the place. On the feed, Leon sees Zeno with Grace. I wonder why they're here. Zeno looks at the camera just as Leon is watching, which means that Zeno set this all up specifically for Leon, or that Zeno can see through the cameras back to the monitor to which they are attached. Or some moron thought it looked cool. Leon starts to sneak up on them and Grace says, "Why did you bring me here?" And Zeno replies, "You need to understand. Covert military units from every country on Earth come to Raccoon City for one purpose: to find Elpis." Really? Every country? Call me crazy, but I don't believe that for a second. What, you think Somalia is sending a Spec Ops team into America? What this line should have been is that every developed country on Earth sends covert military units to Raccoon City. which even then I don't think I would believe that, but it would be better than what he said. On top of that, Sherry couldn't find anything about it on the CIA or Pentagon servers, but other countries know about it? Just, none of it makes sense. Grace asks, what is Elpis? And Xeno replies, the power to upset the military balance of the world, the last virus created by Spencer, designed to control human consciousness. They couldn't let it be stolen, so they launched the missile strike to hide it. Again, I don't buy into any of this. You screwed up too many times. Grace asks, why do something so extreme? And Xeno replies, extreme, is it? When the president tried to investigate, they had him assassinated. And you are the key to retrieving Elpis. Which is a pretty weird sentence. He basically goes, oh, it's extreme to hide Elpis with a missile strike? Well, you are the key to retrieving it. I just don't follow that. Xeno pulls up a picture of Emily and shows Grace that Emily was a clone of Grace, and that there were in fact many clones of Grace, except that they were all useless. Then he pulls up some security footage of one of the clones in the orphanage from RE2. Then the game changes to this clone's perspective in 1990. So, first off, this timeline is a mess. If this is a clone of Grace, then that means that Grace has to be in her mid-40s at least. Which she just isn't. So the alternative is that Grace is a clone herself. At which point, I don't know why she would be the special one. But once again, we'll just have to wait for more answers, as if they'll make sense. So this clone is Chloe. She wakes up to like 3 doctors arguing outside of her room, which is a weird place to have an argument when the hall ends right by the store, but whatever. Chloe sees that all of the other kids are nowhere to be found, so she walks to the hall and goes to the next room over. She sees that one of the doctors is trying to fend off some creepy children. He shoots one in the head and it basically does nothing, then falls over and they all gather around him and break his neck. So an interesting advantage of being an adult is that you can fight off small children pretty easily. Maybe he's a male feminist, that would explain it. Chloe runs back to her room and hides under her bed. The creepy children come in and start pounding on the tops of each of the beds. I don't know why, just shut up and be scared, I guess. They eventually leave, and Chloe goes downstairs and hides some more. After some more hiding and running, she eventually finds herself in a room full of coffins. She does a puzzle, and then more children start coming out of the coffins. So they do experiments on child clones here, but they put them in coffins when they die instead of cremating them or something? Why? The only thing I can think of is that you may want to experiment on the corpses later, but you wouldn't put them in coffins for that. Whatever. Chloe makes her way into the lab and finds some more clones in orbs, lining a hallway to a conference room. Again, not sure I understand this method of storage. Putting them in a hallway instead of a storage room or something? Whatever. The conference room has a slideshow of the babies being born. And here's another thing I don't get. I don't know why you would need a slideshow of this when Chloe is like 8. Everyone who works here would know how this works already. Unless it was like orientation day. It's just dumb after dumb after dumb. Anyway, a doctor comes in and sedates her. Then he notes that she is showing symptoms of whatever happened to the other kids, and that they need to dispose of her. Then we go back to modern day. So that whole sequence really seemed like a waste of time. It has virtually no bearing on the plot, and all of the information it provides could have been easily assumed. Let's just keep going. Xeno says they weren't able to recreate Spencer's key, but now we have the original. We have you. You can unlock Elpis at Ark. That's where we'll go. Grace responds, I was made? And Xeno says, correct. Okay, so I'm just confused. If she's the original, she should be much older. Setting the orphanage scene in 1990 is just a flat-out mistake. Secondly, if she was made, then she's not the original. Unless she was made from scratch. I don't know. I can't follow this. On top of that, Xeno brought Grace here just to show her security footage from 1990? He could have shown her that footage anywhere. Why do it at this ruined police station? This is just... People think this story is good, man. Grace starts having a panic attack or something and says, then it really was all my fault. That Mom was murdered, and that Emily turned into that thing. Was she even really my mother? Again, credit to the actress, but this dialogue is terrible. I don't know why Grace would even say this stuff. She blames herself? Why? She had no context for anything that happened to her mother, and Emily was an experiment of crazy people. I imagine someone would say that she feels guilty, but I just don't follow this. Leon comes in and says, "Grace." Then Grace turns around and says, "Mom?" and then faints. Which at this point just feels like an arbitrary way to incapacitate her so that we can move the plot forward. Leon starts shooting at Zeno, and Zeno does the cringe Wesker dance. So, something I forgot to mention earlier is that Leon came across a military unit that had been wiped out. Leon was able to tap into their footage and saw that it was Zeno who killed all of them. Zeno can take out a Spec Ops team with ease. He can move faster than a bullet, so I guess Leon is just dead here. Zeno says, "Mr. Kennedy, I had a feeling you'd make an appearance. Sorry, but I don't have the time to spare." Moves faster than bullets, but doesn't have the time to kill Leon. So this guy is stupid, cringe, and lazy. Next, we see Mr. X drop from the ceiling, and Zeno leaves with Grace. Leon looks at Mr. X and says, "I remember you." If I was in any way invested in this game, then seeing this would just make my soul drop. Fortunately, my investment died all the way back at the part where the FBI man explained Grace's backstory to her. So Mr. X punches Leon in the stomach, and Leon flies back into a wall. Wowee, that's broken ribs and a broken spine. No, wait, Leon's fine. He shoots the ceiling and it falls in such a way that it incapacitates Mr. X. Sniper rifles, motorbikes, and ceilings, oh my. Leon says to Sherry, "Wasn't there an orphanage around here?" And Sherry says, in the flattest way possible, "Yes, there was. Why?" Then Leon says, "I'm gonna do some digging." So the reason I pointed out Sherry's flat delivery is that this is, again, a missed opportunity for her. She had a pretty traumatic experience in that orphanage in the RE2 remake where she was trying to escape the police chief. This is another point where the writers could take advantage of having these characters in this game, but they are more interested in the reference as opposed to doing anything meaningful with it. Also, Leon did not see the footage of the orphanage. He was hiding out of sight as Grace watched it. Just like with the Leon hand reveal and the zombie with a hood over their head, the writers seem to think that if the player sees it, the characters did too. And again, Zeno didn't need to bring Grace here to show her this. It just sucks. Anyway, Leon runs around for a bit as Mr. X busts through some walls. Until he just stops for some reason. Okay. Leon leaves the station and eventually makes it to the gun shop, where we get more flashes of the past. The gun shop owner with his zombie daughter. Yeah. Leon finds some bones, leans down, and says, "I'm so sorry. Never again." Which I just find so funny on a meta level. With the money these games make, there will be so many more zombie outbreaks. Leon walks around a bit more until Mr. X shows up on a roof. He picks up a missile from a nearby crashed helicopter, which, just add that to the list of things not destroyed in the bombing of the city. Mr. X throws the missile, and Leon survives it by hiding behind some car wreckage. Sure, I believe you. Mr. X jumps down with another missile in hand. And Leon says, "I couldn't save them, but I can stop bastards like you." Then he shoots the missile. Again, I'd just like to point out that Leon did in fact manage to save people in RE2. And in RE4, well, we'll get there. So they have a boss battle and Leon wins, hooray I don't care. Leon makes his way to the orphanage and starts heading underground. Pretty convenient that the ruins actually have a path down like this, but, well, I don't bind any of this anyway. Leon walks a bit until he finds a rope tied to a pillar, which he can use to descend. I might have been fine with this if it was the only example of convenience in this story, but on top of sniper rifles, motorbikes, and ceilings, oh my, it just fucks me off. At the bottom, Leon discovers some mutant plants. Just throw it on the nostalgia bonfire that I'm going to light at the end of this trash. He eventually gets to the boss plant and kills it. Just past it is a giant door. Leon pulls a lever and the door opens. The entrance to this super secret lab is protected by a lever. You know, you could have just had Sherry hack it. She's been doing that all game anyway. Leon walks in and says to Sherry, "I found some kind of massive facility." Sherry asks, "What do you think it is?" Leon replies, "I'm seeing supplies with the logos of the usual suspects." Then Sherry says, "Well, whatever it is, it clearly wasn't meant to be found." And Leon says, "Yeah, you're telling me." Did they go to a narrative version of a McDonald's drive-thru for this dialogue? I really want to stress this. There are so many great things you can do by having your characters talk to each other. You can learn about them, what they think of each other, or the world as it is. You can have the things they say tie into the theme. Every line a character says is an opportunity. And here we get the most basic placeholder crap. It tells me that the writer really didn't care about the dialogue. Assuming that they care about any of this, which at this point I'm really not sure. It might just be that the director knew what the actors needed to do in order for players to say it was good, and hey, they did their job at least. This situation kinda reminds me of the end of American Psycho. If the writer came up to the people who say that this story is amazing and told them that it was actually terrible, would they even be believed? This whole narrative demonstrates a level of ineptitude that borders on the imbecilic, and I mean that in a very caring way. Anyway, once again, I am out of time. You know, initially I wanted this to be one video that was just a quick overview, but paying full attention to the story made me realize that it needed a lot more focus. Let that be a lesson. Never pay full attention. As if the people who like this game needed that advice.